Gervonta Tank Davis says his next fight will not be at 130 or 135. Let's talk about it.
The heart beats just a little faster right now, doesn't it? As they stand alone right now. No cornermen. They're just ready to make the ring walk for the biggest fight that boxing can make.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is that you're watching this video. This is Shadow Ghost with another one. And today, Gervonta Tank Davis announces that, or I don't know if it was today or whatever. I got this from Boxing News 24. By the way, it's always good to give your sources with whatever you do, whatever you're in, because at the end of the day, you don't want no problems. So I got this from Boxing News 24. It says Gervonta Tank Davis announces that his next fight won't be at 130 or 135. So with that, he began his career. Gervonta Tank Davis began his career at 126. He moved up to 130. He's also had issues making weight. Let's be honest, he's not the only fighter that's had issues making weight. Just recently, if we wanted to pick another fighter just randomly, let's just go to David Benavidez, who lost his title on the scales. And when people hear this, I hear this a lot. People go, "Well, they're not disciplined." I've even been, to be honest, I've said it myself. But when you really think about it, these are very, very gifted fighters. I would not want to meet David Benavidez in the ring. I would never want to meet Gervonta Tank Davis in the ring. I wouldn't want to meet, honestly, any one of these guys in the ring. When I see this happening, the UFC made there's a video. I was watching it. I'm not sure if it's a documentary or show, but they actually were showing about how these guys make weight or cut weight, and it's drastic. A lot of these guys are passing out. Some of these guys have to go to the hospital. Some of these guys can't even do the fight because the weight cut is just so it's unhealthy, man. They're putting their body through so much tremendous. It's just bad. It's just bad. And so it's not really, when I look at it, yes, you have to be disciplined because how you carry yourself outside the fight when it's time to fight, it makes it a lot easier for when it's time to cut weight. So of course, if you're outside partying, not following a diet, not always in the gym, not always on the grind or whatever, and it's time to fight, yeah, when it's time to cut your weight and time to make weight, it's gonna be a lot harder. But also at the same time, let's also talk about this. You have fighters that are naturally not fighting in their weight class. So, for a good example, let's go back to David Benavidez. I believe he's a 175 pounder. I'm not the only one that says this. A lot of journalists, boxing journalists, say that he's really a 175 pounder fighting at 168. Errol Spence Jr. to me is not a natural welterweight. He's a natural middleweight. If you can get away with it, do it. It's to your advantage, and if you can make the weight consistently, then do you? You know what I'm saying? Do you? So, but going back to Tank, this is kind of shocking because if you ain't gonna fight at 130 or 135, where you gonna fight? So at 140? So let's talk about this. So according to the article, it says that when asked if his next fight will be at 130 or 135, Tank said neither. Then he said he will be fighting a world champion when asked a hint about who will be his next foe. So, okay, so you're not going to be fighting at 130. You're not going to be fighting at 135, and your next foe is going to be a world champion. So let's look at this. Let's go to 140 first. At 140, right now, you have two champions that are about to fight, Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor. So that would only leave 140, the champion at 140, the WBA regular belt holder, Mario Barrios. I don't see that happening. It just doesn't make any sense. Money wise, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. So let's go back down. So let's go to 126, which is crazy to me because he's having trouble making weight. So if we go to 126, now this does make more sense as far as us as boxing fans, as far as talent, as far as ticket sales, as far as matchup. WBC featherweight champion Gary Russell Jr. Now that's a fight, bro. That's a fight. Yo, I'm in all day. I want to see that fight. All day I want to see that fight. Why do I want to see that fight? Number one, there's history. There's history. I mean, Gary Russell Jr., that guy, yo, he's the definition of wanting smoke, bro. Nobody wants to fight this guy, bro. He calls out everybody. He calls out people from other weight classes. I mean, he's called out not Errol Spence. He's called out Terrence Crawford. He's called out Tank. He's called out Haney. Bro, he calls out everybody. This is the definition of I want smoke. So yeah, that's a fight I want to see. So, but here goes the thing. I don't see Tank making 126, and I don't see 140 being a good option because number one, here goes the thing with Tank. I don't know if you guys ever seen Tank's his stature. He's a very small person. He fits 135. He fits 130. He fits 126. He fits those weight classes. The higher you go in weight classes, you're meeting people that are taller, that have longer reach, that may be heavier than you, that may hit harder than you. Now I'm not saying they may necessarily hit harder than Tank. I mean Tank is a hard ass puncher, but still, the higher you go up in weight classes, the advantages that you had in those lower weight classes are now gone. And if they're not gone, then they're now evenly matched. But at the end of the day, we all know that the skills pay the bills. We all know that. I mean, let's look at Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz. I mean, the dude was half his size, knocked him down 5 times, made him quit. But let's take this realistically here. You're going to 140, right? Where everybody, mostly everybody you fight, is going to have a height advantage. And if they have a height advantage, they'll probably have a reach advantage. That's not always the case. But most likely, everybody's going to have a reach advantage on you. Now, as far as skills go, Tank is going to be gifted. He's a naturally gifted fighter. I think a lot of people, as a whole, realistically as a whole, and I'm talking about both sides, because if we look at the YTBC, by the way, YTBC is I didn't even know what the YTBC was. 8 months ago, I used to go on YouTube just to look at the boxing highlights. That's all I did. I used to watch. I watched boxing since I was a kid. I used to, after the fight was over, I'd look at the highlights, and that's it. You know what I mean? I'm just recently now looking at this YTBC stuff, and I'm realizing that there's groups within groups within groups, just like anything else. But you'll notice that one side will always favor another, and you'll see that on both sides of the fence, fighters are always underrated. I try to keep the same energy no matter what fighter, no matter what background, no matter what you look like. I don't care. I love the sport. Okay, that's what it is. If you go to any other, just like on YouTube, if you go to, let's say NFL for instance, I'm also an Eagles fan, right? Now, because I live over on the East Coast, I don't live in Philly, but I do live close. So therefore, I'll see channels, you know what I mean, that are Eagles fans. Okay, and these guys have NFL channels or whatever, and they have differences of opinion. Now, these are people that study the game. They have differences of opinion. Does that mean they ass, they whack this? No, it doesn't mean nothing. People that are masters of the game, masters of anything, have difference of opinion. That's how it is. It's always gonna be like that. I try to keep the same energy. So when it comes to Tank Davis, he's naturally gifted, bro. I like him. When it comes to the 135-pound division, I try to take everything when I'm looking at a weight class. I take everything into account. I take the eye test, okay. I take the resume test, okay. I take the trainer test. I take you know basically your ethics. I take everything. I take everything into account. When I look at Tank, I have him between 2 and 3 on the 135. A lot of people think that's crazy because they still have Lomachenko up there as 2 or 3 or whatever. I was never really in a high regard for Lomachenko because yes, he has a very very good amateur record, but I think, like Mayweather said it best, after so many amateur records, you're a pro anyway. You know what I mean? And you're fighting amateurs. So let's put it like this: if I'm an amateur and I'm fighting over 100 amateur fights, I'm a pro already. So I'm still fighting amateurs in a pro. You understand what I'm saying? So of course I'm going to keep winning my fights. I've been an amateur for years now, and I'm still fighting amateurs. I should be pro already. So I kind of understand that. But getting back to that, people may not agree with me, but getting back to Tank, I think he's a very gifted fighter. But I think that the what helps him is the fact that he uses his weight to his advantage. His past opponents, he's always had some type of advantage. Even with Leo Santa Cruz, he fought a 124, 122 pounder coming up, moving up to fight him. He's always had some type of advantage. If he moves to 140, he loses all these advantages that he's ever had. So I just don't see that's a viable, just a viable option. And you got to understand, he's got Money Mayweather as his promoter, and he's one of the smartest men in the game. So 126, if this is true from what I'm reading, then it's got to be 126. But now, if you look at it, that's a high risk, high reward. But I just don't see him making the weight. But you know what? I can't say nothing because these are professionals. This is what they do. And a lot of people didn't think that Tank was gonna make weight during his Santa Cruz fight, the Leo Santa Cruz fight. A lot of people was talking that ish right up to the weigh-in. Was like he ain't gonna make weight. I mean, I had people that put money down saying he wasn't gonna make weight, bro. He made it easily. So when he puts his mind to it, and we gotta understand that he started he began his career at 126. So if he began his career, and of course we all, as time moves on, just like Tiafimo and Devin Haney, they're gonna move to 140. Okay, and then I think Devin Haney even said at one point he might move to 147, but that's later on. As you grow older, it's harder to make the same weight. That's why people start moving up in weight. So this is gonna be interesting. Tell me what y'all think, and I appreciate any comments. Please hit the notification bell. Please subscribe. And this is Shadow Ghost. And until next time.